Hello and good morning, everybody, and never to be forgotten, of course, happy coffee. Today is an exciting day in the garden because today we're doing our first garden tour of the season. If you are new around here, my name is Alex and I do container gardening in Missouri, the very southern bit of Missouri, zone 7A on a good day, but 6B throughout the winter if you want to be realistic. I have about 40 of these large mineral buckets. They originally are used for minerals and feed for cows and things, and we have a lot of farmland around here, so I can just get them really cheap and easily. So that's what I've decided. I started this container garden back when I lived in a different house, actually in the middle of town, where I wasn't able to dig, and I knew I wasn't going to live there for a long time, so I didn't really want to install a lot of raised beds or anything like that. So I just went with these containers. I think they're each probably about 30 gallons. Some are a little bigger. These black ones are the smallest ones, and these green ones behind me there are the biggest ones. But I actually really enjoy growing in them, and they've lasted quite a while. Some of them are starting to degrade with the sun and everything, and me putting pressure on the sides using shovels and stuff, but mostly they're doing really good, and I love my little garden. I have plans to get a lot done in the garden this week, and since I didn't do an April garden tour, I figured I would do what I'm going to call the spring garden tour, because this is basically what my garden has looked like all spring and what it will continue to look like until the end of May. So today is May 5th. It's Cinco de Mayo today. I didn't realize that, so happy Cinco de Mayo also if you celebrate that. So in the middle and end of this month, there's going to be a lot of transition and change happening in the garden, a lot of transplanting and cutting down plants and harvesting. So I wanted to do a garden tour not only for you guys, but for myself before that happened. So that's what we're doing today before I start everything else. Garden is not very showy right now. There's not a lot of really pops of colors and flowers. It's all of the brassicas and things like that that grow over winter, and those aren't necessarily the most pretty plants, but if you're a garden nerd like me, you think they're beautiful nonetheless. So let me quit chatting with you guys and let's just go look at the garden. Right now, for the most part, the garden starts on this end closer to my house with the things that will be harvested the soonest, for the most part, again, and then slowly gets into things that will be growing throughout the spring and even into the summer as we go down that way. So I figured we would start down here. On the end over there furthest away from me, in that silver container, is spinach. Just to the left of that silver pot, there used to be my green stock and a pile of unused pots and just garden tools and things like that. We recently had a new driveway cut in, and that stuff was kind of in the way of what we were doing. So I had to move it, and we just moved it down to the other end of the garden. And by we, I mean my mom and I. And while we were doing that, my mom found an old packet, probably 4 years old or something. I don't remember when exactly it was dated for. But an old seed packet, unopened, of Bloomsdale spinach. And I was like, well, this definitely has not been handled properly or stored how you should store it. So I don't know how much of it'll grow, but let's just plant it. So I pulled back the mulch on that silver container down there and just planted the whole packet. And there is plenty of spinach in there. And that spinach will perfectly replace this spinach, which is bolting, and oh, I just watched so much pollen fall off. Let's take a closer look at that. What I just did a second ago was hit the top of this. I hope you'll be able to see that. Oh, it's all over my phone screen. There's so much pollen. Do you see it on my finger right there? That's pollen from the flowers that the spinach is producing. And also probably seed. So I'm probably dropping spinach seed in this container, but that's fine with me. Like I said, that silver container is Bloomsdale spinach. This tall spinach that has all the flowers in the back, it actually looks like this, the leaves. They're kind of pointy on the edges. This is Matador spinach. And this is also bolting, but not as quickly. But I did continue harvesting this one more than that one because I like this one better. And this one is actually Bloomsdale spinach as well. So I'm pretty excited that that one is Bloomsdale. Other than spinach over here, these two containers are Softneck garlic. I'm not sure if you can tell, but this garlic, though really thick and green now, was very behind and stunted and unhappy. In fact, there's supposed to be the same amount of garlic in each of these containers, and that much garlic did pop up in there in the fall when I planted it. But I had so many squirrels digging in this container, as well as it got really, really cold outside. And I did, like I said, have my green stalk right here. So this container was getting a lot more shade than I had intended. So these ones were a little bit stunted and behind, but started to catch up once I moved the green stalk. And now this one is probably the thickest Nootka rose garlic that I have, like in comparison to my finger. And none of these, this is probably the thickest one over here, are that big. So this garlic only has a few weeks left, probably end of May, beginning of June, maximum to the middle of June is when this will be ready to harvest. We've got the Bloomsdale spinach and 2 containers of Nootka rose garlic. This container here just has some blackberry canes in it. I helped my friend prune her blackberry plant recently, and I didn't have any blackberry bushes. This is one that I had given her, and mine died over winter. So I took them home and tried to just stick them in this container to root them out, but that didn't work. They are definitely dead. This container just has weeds growing in it, nothing special. That container I think has some kind of brassica kale seeds or something. That's just a bunch of soil that I dumped out of pots that my mom gave to me, and I think she was trying to grow kale for her chickens and stuff. So I think that's some kind of kale or broccoli or something of the sort, but that box is falling apart, but that's decent soil, so I think I'm gonna throw some of my extra potatoes into there and cover them with some mulch and see what happens. We're back to the Matador and Bloomsdale spinach, and just across from that, this is an entire container of Calibra onions. These Calibra onions are a hybrid variety from Johnny's Seed that are supposed to be a really good storage onion. They are a sweet yellow onion, which is basically the only onions that I use. And I have been following along as a honeybee. Hold on. Get it, bud. You get that pollen. I support you. Anyways, I heard of Calibra onions from a different girl that I watch on YouTube. Her name is Bree Ellis, and she gardens in Kansas, which is just, it's her zone, I think, is not the same technically as mine. I think hers is 6B and mine's 7A technically. But based on what I've seen from her, her climate is very, very similar to mine, and these grow really well for her. So I thought maybe they'd grow really well for me. And so far, they're doing pretty good. I actually haven't checked if these Calibra onions have started to bulb yet, so we can check that together. I don't think so. They're still just pretty straight. Just next to this container of Calibra onions, we go back into some more garlic. So this, I think these 4 containers, these 2 blue ones and these 2 yellow ones, are Vietnamese Softneck garlic. And I actually just noticed that that one there, right there, has split into a lot of different garlics. And in fact, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the garlics in this container have split. And I'm not sure if that's because we accidentally planted multiple bulbs, or if because it split underground, which would mean that I left it in there too long. But based on the timing, it for sure wouldn't need harvested until at least a few more weeks. I'm not sure. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Should I go ahead and harvest some of this Softneck garlic? What do you think? I haven't been able to fertilize it in like 2.5 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, because we've been getting so much rain. It's been raining. and raining for weeks and weeks. And I use water-soluble fertilizer, so I haven't been able to water my plants to fertilize them. So those are the 4 containers of Vietnamese Softneck garlic. And then these are the 2 Leningrad garlic, which I recently learned is also German red garlic. What's growing in these 2 containers. These are the ones that should produce scapes, and they should be producing them anytime. In fact, I really think that these really thin looking leaves might be the beginning of scapes. But last year, I didn't look at them every single day and didn't see them until they were full scapes with little flower heads. So I'm not really sure. And this last short yellow container, I don't even know if you guys realized they were short. Here's my normal containers. And here's the ones that the garlic and spinach and that kind of things are growing in, and onions. And in this very last one is another container of just Calibra onions. I don't know if you can tell on camera, but I can surely tell in real life that these onions are so much smaller than that other individual container of Calibra onions. This one over here, those ones are so much bigger. Maybe it's because the soil's deeper, maybe the soil's better in that container. I'm not 100% sure. But those 2 containers in comparison, the metal one is doing much better. Okay, everybody, I am so excited to show you this next bit. It is my pride and joy in the garden right now. And if you're not an avid gardener like I wasn't a few years ago, you might not know what this is, but it is broccoli. I love broccoli. I love to eat it, I mean. And I've tried for the past 3 years to grow nice broccoli and actually have it make a head so that I can harvest it and eat broccoli that I grow. But for some reason, heading brassicas have been just so difficult for me. I've not gotten them to start making broccolis, I've not gotten broccolis to start making a head without going to seed within a week of it showing up. And this is the closest I have come, and I'm friggin' crossing my fingers that it goes well and that maybe these last few weeks of May can just stay on the cool-ish side so that I can actually harvest some broccoli. But mostly I attribute my what I expect to be a success, but I don't want to get too excited and then disappoint myself. But I am growing a hybrid variety of broccoli this year. Also, who would have guessed? I also heard about from Bree Ellis, who gardens, like I said, in Kansas, and her weather is just so similar to mine that it couldn't help but take her recommendations. So this is the F1 hybrid Bellstar broccoli from Johnny's Seed, and it is supposed to be heat and stress resistant, or heat and stress tolerant, and a little bit more pest resistant, which is exactly what I needed, and I am so happy. If this works out, I swear this will be the broccoli that I grow forever if I just don't come across another variety that blows my socks off. So all of these, I don't know how many you can see right now, but all of these broccoli plants are Bellstar broccoli. There are 9 of them. I only put 1 in each container. I also, in past years, tried to put multiple broccolis per these containers, and they're just so wide of plants that was not enough room for them. They thought that they didn't have enough space, and they were growing really small. So I only put 1 per container, but I did add in onions as a companion plant. That also was to try and even further the pest resistance, because bugs that love to eat your brassicas don't love the smell of onions or garlic, things in the allium family they don't love, and onions, having such shallow roots, were a perfect companion plant for this broccoli. So let me take you off the tripod and show you the tiniest, cutest little broccoli heads that I have ever seen, that you've probably ever seen too. A couple of other things in these containers with the broccoli, and I'll mention those as we take a closer look. So right next to the onions and garlic, where we left off, is where the broccoli starts. This one on the end, for an unknown reason, has the smallest actual head of broccoli. There is one way down in there, but it's difficult to see even with my actual eyeballs. So the plant looks great, and I assume it'll start catching up to the other ones. Here with it, I think these are pansies that I got from Hirsch in the fall. I don't think these are ones that I started from seed, and if so, then I do not have the variety on that. What the heck? Is this why the broccoli was so much slower to... What the heck? I did not plant 2 broccolis in this container. Well, is that from the same plant? Oh, that's just a secondary head from the same plant. You know what? I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave it. We're gonna let it do what it does, because it's still producing a head in there, so whatever. And then on the right over here, we have 2 Australian brown onions. So that was the first broccoli with the smallest one. And like I said, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's a cabbage, 7, 8, and 9. And all of these ones have much more visible heads of broccoli. Maybe it's because they're not producing secondary plants. So there's one. Here's one. Oh, that is a beautiful picture. Oh, I love that. And then this one has one. I'm sorry if some things that I'm showing you are a little bit difficult to see. It is probably not the best lighting in the garden right now, but this is the time that I have to do a tour. So there's that one. Look, there's it compared to my finger. It's bigger than my fingertip now. And I think you get it. They all have one tiny little broccoli head in the center. These ones are Calibra onions. These ones are Australian brown onions. These ones are some of the only yellow of Parma onions that I got to sprout this year, like actually germinate, which is weird because I got a lot of them to germinate last year. Maybe onion seed doesn't last as long as other things. I'm not sure. Has a weed growing in it. But other than that, is by itself. More Australian brown onions in with this cabbage. And this is a glory of, I just call it glory of E because I don't know how to pronounce it. It's like glory of Enkhausen. I'm not 100% sure, but it's a glory of E cabbage, and I'll put the real name on the screen with some Australian brown onions around the side. That Bellstar broccoli is also by itself. This Bellstar broccoli has another pansy in with it. I'm not 100% sure if this is a pansy that I started from seed or one that I bought from Hirsch. If it's one that I started from seed, then it is the Brushstrokes Viola pansy. And if it's one from Hirsch, I have no idea what kind it is. So another container of broccoli. Oh, this might be the biggest broccoli yet. It's so cute. And with this one is more Australian brown onions. And then in this last container of Bellstar broccoli, it is just by itself and producing a tiny broccoli. So like I said, these broccolis are the pride and joy in my garden right now. I love them so much and I'm so happy with them. And I'm going to be able to harvest broccoli in just a couple of weeks, which is so exciting. I really love watching other people's garden tours this time of year because May is just so different in all the different places. I know people down in Florida, like her name is Michelle, her channel is called Michelle in the Meadow. She couldn't dream of growing broccoli right now. It is way too warm, averaging days about 80 degrees up to 90, 95, I think 93 the other day was the high, and broccoli just cannot handle that heat. But she also has peppers, bell peppers coming in already, so I couldn't dream of having those ready to harvest yet. So it's just really cool to see what everyone else is doing. May is one of those months that You could be planting tomatoes or you could be harvesting broccoli like me. Continuing on down in the garden, we have a container that is mostly overrun with kale, and at the end of this tour, you and I are actually going to harvest mostly overrun with kale, mostly overrun with thyme, and then one kale plant. And at the end of this tour, you and I are going to harvest a bunch of this thyme and a bunch of this oregano, as well as that oregano down there. So if you want to stay for the harvest, that'll be at the end. But this is lacinato kale, otherwise known as dino kale. The leaves get really long and slender. This is just a young plant, and it probably needs to be fertilized also, so the leaves aren't that big yet. Next to that, we have one lacinato kale, which is the same kind as that, the dino kale, and one dazzling blue kale, which I also really like, but it stays where the leaves are smaller like this. The leaves don't get giant on that one. That is in with an Italian oregano. Oh, and that is an English thyme, by the way. Just in front of that, we have what I call my river flower, but what I now know is perennial phlox. It is native around here, and one day my love bug and I were at the river, and I saw some closed ones of these flowers like this, and how they were all twisted, and then the same plant had partially open flowers and fully open flowers. And I was just really, really interested in how they opened and how they kind of twist together instead of just blooming outward. So most flowers just bloom out like that, but these ones kind of untwist and then come flat. And I just thought that was so cool. I had never seen it before. So my love bug grabbed a stick, used it as a shovel, dug it up out of the ground, and brought it home for me in a plastic bag that we found in our vehicle. And at that time, this plant was probably only this much of a plant, and it is perennial, like I said, so it dies back every year and comes back in the spring. So I think this is my third year having it come in the spring to my garden. I love it. It adds such a nice pop of color, right, and it does continue to bloom when it's not terribly hot outside. So in with the phlox is Chinese chives down here, which I didn't think were going to live, but came back this spring with a vengeance. They didn't even do this well last year, and I've used these a couple of times. You can see where these leaves were chopped, and I actually chop it down to about here when I cut it. So they've grown 2 to 3 inches since the last time, not to mention these brand new leaves. And then another dazzling blue kale. I'm gonna have to take a break to go inside and make some food for my love bug who's on his way home. But I will finish showing you the rest of the garden later. But I do have one more thing that I'm just gonna mention before I go inside. Someone, I don't know who, I call her my garden fairy, randomly showed up at my house the other day and dropped off all of these containers you see in front of my main growing containers, and also these little signs. So I got home from work and they were just here. I was like, what the heck? So this sign, oh, and these are all tiger lilies, by the way, potted up tiger lilies out of her front yard. And this sign says, don't forget to be awesome, which I love. This side says thankful, which is really cute, but I'll probably bring it inside and have it as like a Thanksgiving decoration. And this one is really cheesy, but also cute. And it's on a miniature palette, which is adorable. This one says, life is not measured by the breaths we take, but by the moments that take our breath away. Like I said, super cheesy, but really cute. So we will take a look at the rest of the garden in a bit. Okay, everyone, it is a few hours later and we are back in the garden to finish the tour. It might look a lot later, but it's not. It's just got really cloudy outside within the last couple of hours. I believe I ended earlier with this container of my phlox, kale, one single onion, and some chives. Next, we have a lonesome Brussels sprout. This is a Long Island Brussels sprout, and it's doing pretty good. It's bounced back pretty quickly considering I put it into the garden kind of late, but I'm not sure if it'll have time to give me any Brussels sprouts. this container here is 3 sprouting broccolis. This one is a purple sprouting broccoli, and these 2 are Calabrese green sprouting broccoli. And I actually hadn't seen this. This is the first time I've seen this little broccoli floret. That's amazing. So sprouting broccolis basically are like you're growing a broccolini plant rather than one big head of broccoli. So it will have a bunch of different little side shoots of just small broccoli florets instead of one very large head of broccoli. So on this plant that has the one floret on it already, there's all of these little side shoots. So this will make a floret, and this will make one, and this will make one, and this will make one. So this is just supposed to make a lot of small pieces of broccoli instead of one big one. These 2 don't have any florets yet. But that's so exciting that this one has one. I can't believe I hadn't seen that. Down in here, in between some containers, these are canna lilies that I left outside when it was really, really cold, and they died, and they haven't sprouted back up yet, which worries me because the last time this happened, they sprouted up in like a week or 2. So I don't know if those are still living or not. This down here is my chocolate mint. Let's grab a little leaf of that. If you've ever had Andes, the little chocolate mint chocolate bars that are like fun size, you know, those taste and smell exactly like this chocolate mint smells. I've not tasted it. Oh, I've tasted it by itself and it just kind of tastes like mint, but I've not really made anything with it. So I have plans soon to make my own chocolate mint coffee creamer and maybe some chocolate mint hot cocoa. And of course you can always make mojitos with it and like mixed alcoholic beverages, but I don't really drink much, so hot cocoa it is. So that is the chocolate mint, which I actually thought I killed over the winter. It wasn't holding water anymore. The soil was terribly hydrophobic and the mint hadn't started sprouting back. It was just so dry, but I drenched it, then covered it in some fresh soil, and then put it out in the garden. And it has been, like I said earlier, raining and raining and raining for weeks. So this got plenty of water and is now so happy. So then, this is the Brussels sprout we already looked at. Another container with just one single Brussels sprout. This one was the Long Island, so I think this one is the Groninger Brussels sprout. Yep, that's correct. This one also does not have any sprouts on it. Oh, well, I guess technically that right there in between the stem and the leaf, that is a baby Brussels sprout. So maybe I'll get some tiny Brussels sprouts by the time it's too warm for me to have these in the garden. I'm not sure. That would be really cool, even though the plants are really small. Then, just next to that, we have another Long Island Brussels sprout, but this one also has 2 sprouting broccolis in the container. These 2 sprouting broccolis are also purple sprouting broccolis. You can kind of see the difference in the leaves. So this is a purple sprouting broccoli. These are the Calabrese green sprouting broccoli, and then 2 more of the purple. These purple sprouting broccoli leaves are much more jagged at the edges, whereas these ones have softer, rounder edges. See? That's pretty cool. And then there's one more container with just a Brussels sprout, and is a Groninger Brussels sprout as well. Next, we have one of the few flowering things in the garden right now, and it actually isn't supposed to be flowering because that is a cabbage. This is the same kind of cabbage as the other one. It's the Glory of Enkhuizen, I don't know, however you say that. And then another pansy down here. I think it's interesting. I actually just noticed that the leaves are holding water, which is interesting. But this is what it looks like when your cabbages or broccolis go to seed and make flowers. And then at the point that they do this, they don't usually taste as good as they would otherwise. Obviously you grow cabbage to get a head of cabbage, and I didn't get a head of cabbage. It just flowered as soon as there was a couple of warm days in a row. But the pollinators have really been loving it, so I've just been leaving it here until soon, maybe even later today. It will have to be chopped down because I need the space, because obviously most of my buckets are full and I have plenty of more things to plant. Going down the line, we have this second giant oregano plant. These 2 plants of oregano give me more oregano than I could possibly ever need. It is dense in there. And this is some of the oregano that we will be harvesting today. Now we're getting into what looks like nothing, but in fact is potatoes. We planted these together in the last video that I posted, and I will link that down in the description if you'd like to watch me plant these potatoes. So this container actually has nothing in it. There was a cabbage that I removed, but I didn't plant any potatoes in that one. But 1, 2, 3, and 4, these containers have red Pontiac potatoes, and they took a little bit longer to start sprouting up above the soil, but they are now starting to make little mounds where I can tell they're coming up. Let's see. Yeah, there it is. That is the start of my little potato. I'll leave that covered up until he is ready. I don't quite see any in this container yet, but this container for sure has some uneven soil right here, there, and over there. These 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, we have the Kennebec potatoes, which are coming up so quickly. And in these ones, you can even see a lot of the greens already. I think 3 days ago, maybe 4 days ago, they started making little mounds in the soil, like I was saying. So here's one. I have not messed with that. It was just popping above the soil by itself. There he is. Another one is about to come through right here. Obviously, one is about to come through right here. He is pushing up quite a bit on the soil, but I will leave that covered until he pushes up through when he is ready. These guys, looking so good. I hope to get much better of a potato harvest than the last time I grew them. Here's some more. You can see this line. There's some. Right here's some more. And then here we've got those, that, and right here is some more coming up. So I was actually planning on planting some radishes or green beans on top of these potatoes, because the last time I grew potatoes, they took quite a few weeks to come up above the soil, and then once they were above the soil, they grow pretty fast. But within 10 days of me planting these potatoes, they started to pop up above the soil. So I didn't get anything else planted in there. It's just gonna be potatoes, I guess, but that's okay, because I'm happy that they're growing that quickly. That means that they're doing good and they're happy. I'm sure some of why they're growing so quickly is how much rain we've gotten. In fact, I was looking at some rain meters online yesterday, and it said that there were multiple days where we got 8+ inches of rain in just one day. What? That means we've had at least 24 inches of rain just in April last month, which is insane. There was a lot of flooding and road closures and people being evacuated from their houses. We've had a very wet spring, but it's also been pretty cool, which is helpful for my broccoli. Okay, backing up a little bit since we got carried away talking about potatoes. Nothing in that one, like I said, that's potatoes. This is another thyme plant that we will be harvesting from. And then right here is just a pansy. This would be, yeah, I believe all the pansies in my garden right now are ones that I purchased from Hirsch. So this is one from Hirsch as well. Those are so pretty. They're doing really well right now, actually. I didn't plant potatoes in this one because I didn't want them to come up and push the pansies out, because the pansies are some of the only flower beauty that I have in the garden right now. Then, taking a few steps back, this is the main container garden, and just here on the ground I have a tiny little row of containers in the garden, and these are all perennial flower bulbs that we planted recently. Well, we being me and my mom. These are Akebono tulips. I actually bought these bulbs for my mom back in October when I went to the Harvest Festival at Baker Creek. I planted them a little late, so tulips probably should already have been flowering by now, but mine have not yet because they got planted late and then hardened off and put outside less than a month ago. Those are all Akebono tulips. And then this is where it's questionable. These are for sure canna lilies, and these are some kind of daylily. I don't know what color they are. I don't know what kind they are. I think these are some of the bulbs that I got from my sister when I went to her house. I just dug them up, separated them, and because she was giving me free bulbs, I also replanted hers and spaced them properly. She's been sending me a bunch of pictures of hers popping up, actually. She seems really happy with how they're growing. I also saved her ponytail palm. I'll ask her if she's okay with me showing that, and I'll put a picture up on the screen of before and after. So that's why you should have your sister come over. Then we have a bunch more bulbs just in each of these. Most of them are daylilies, and some of them are just regular lilies. I think they're all lilies, maybe. I'm not 100% sure. We threw away the packages because my mom doesn't really care what color they are. She'll wait until they flower and then figure out where she wants them. She just wants an assortment of colors of all the flowers. So we just have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, which is one more than we had the other day. I only had 10 up the other day. I think this one or this one just came up recently. And there are some planted in these 3. They just have not come up yet. I don't know if they will come up, but I'll leave them for a while longer to see if they do anything. My green stalk right now is just taken apart and on the ground because I had to transplant some of my strawberries because they had died. I needed to use some of the soil that was in them, so I took this was a 4-tier green stalk. I took one of the tiers, removed all the strawberries, and put them into here. This is not strawberries. This is clover. I don't need to be growing clover. Get out of here. I don't know what this is, but it's not strawberries. So I do have a few little strawberries on here. I have 2 varieties of strawberries, and they are Ozark Beauty and some random variety that I have not ever, and will not ever know the name of because we bought them from an auction from the Amish. So I just call them my Amish strawberries, to be honest. And I don't know which ones are which. The only one I know for a fact is this one right here, because it still has the Ozark Beauty tag right in there with it. So I think this one with the really big leaves is Ozark Beauty, which would mean that one probably is too. Maybe this one is an Amish strawberry, because look at that size difference. I'm not sure. A few of the plants have a couple little berries on them, and that is very exciting. Haven't gotten to eat any yet. They're just still ripening up here on the plants. Here is my purple iris that just started sprouting the day before yesterday. And then this one was open yesterday. And then this one actually opened today. So those are very pretty. I love the stripy bits. Super cool. They are smaller than an iris normally would be, but it's because they're in this little container, and I have neglected to water them for a long time. I've just been relying on the rain. This mess is just a bunch of unused pots and things that I need to go through and get rid of what I'm not keeping. I would like to get away from a lot of these terracotta pots because it gets way too cold here in the winter and way too hot in the summer, meaning they freeze and break in the winter, like this one. That one broke because it froze with wet soil in it, and in the summer they just dry out really, really quickly because they are porous. Clay is porous, so the water will evaporate through the clay. This is my compost tumbler, and I really love my compost tumbler. It is a, oh well, technically we have it backwards, but it is a, oh, Hi. It's a Vivo Sun compost tumbler. And I just put that cabbage plant in it the other day. That's funny. But it has actually gone down a lot. I haven't been putting a lot of nitrogens in here. Haven't been putting a lot of anything in here, to be honest. So let's turn this. That's looking pretty good. That's not quite finished. It's a little bit woody still, which means I need to put more greens in it and let them break down. But it is looking pretty good, and it smells like soil. That's an avocado pit. Oh yeah, it's looking really nice. I am happy with that. Okay, there's only one last little bit to show you. I've already showed you a majority of the garden, and this last little bit is basically just a sneak peek as to what will be in this garden in the next garden tour. Up here, I have a ton of plants just in the yard because I was taking them back and forth out of the house to harden them off, and 60 feet less is a lot of feet less when you're individually taking these trays outside. So I just set them in the yard. They are all fully hardened off now, and I'm not going to go through everything that I exactly have here and the varieties and stuff because, like I said, that will be in the next garden tour. But there is a lot going on over here. We've got plenty of peppers, sunflowers, other flowers, got amaranth, zinnia. This is the first zinnia opening of the season. That's a good little peek for you guys. I hadn't even seen that yet. This was only partially opened yesterday. We've got little tiny tomato plants. These are dwarf tomatoes. We've got some sweet alyssum, some more flowers, some herbs. This is parsley and chives. Then lots of more zinnias because I just want the garden to be beautiful this year. We've got chamomile. These are some more baby peppers that I had to resow because they initially did not get a good germination, but that's fine. And we've got some catnip right here. More sunflowers, cosmos, cucumbers. Some dwarf snapdragons. Dill. So all of this is going to be moved out into the garden within as quickly as I can get them in, to be honest. I won't be able to put everything in until the broccolis come out. Okay guys, this is the entire garden as it sits right now. Like I said, all of those plants will be slowly making their way into the garden as I harvest other things like my broccoli, and I will probably have to cut these herbs in half by the root in order to have some more room in the containers with those. But I did tell you that we were going to harvest some thyme and oregano, so let me go grab my pruners. I have this cute little basket that we are going to be putting these herbs in, and they're going to get quite the haircut, as I do not need my herb plants to be this large. So we're just going to start chopping. One little bunch. Oh, that smells so good. Just separate some like a ponytail and chop it down as low as you want, because it'll come back. With what's left, to encourage it to be even more bushy and stop flowering, even though these tiny little flowers are so adorable, I'm just going to take it in chunks and chop off only the top sections, like this. That was a lot of time. And now you see why I did this after the garden tour and not before, because that is just not nearly as aesthetic as that. Now let's get some of this oregano. Look at that difference. Look at that. It looks so bare now. But look at this beautiful basket of herbs. Look at these tiny little flowers. Those are so cute. Oh my goodness. Beautiful. Okay, that is it for the first garden tour of the 2025 season. It's been fun. It's been great. It is a little bit chilly out here. I am going to harvest some more oregano and thyme from those other two plants, but I'm going to go ahead and do that by myself because you know what it looks like at this point. It makes the plants ugly. That's just what happens when you harvest. Okay, thank you guys so much for coming along in the garden today. I really appreciate you being here, and I will see you all in the next one.